Okay, let me just get clear. Was Ms. Hendricks your wife before she started at JM Aviation?
Yes.
She was?
She was, yes.
When were you married?
I don't remember.
You don't remember when you were married?
Yes.
Right. So you don't celebrate an anniversary every year?
I don't what?
You don't celebrate an anniversary every year?
Well, okay, I'm an African councillor. I don't do these things of anniversary and then I don't know. I don't do it.
Do you think you were married 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 1 year ago?
Maybe it's around about 3 years.
About 3 years,
yes.
if not 2 years.
If it's not 2 years, 3 years, yes.
But not more than 3 years?
Not more, yes.
Then she wasn't your wife when she was employed at JM Aviation, was she?
I don't remember. I don't remember. Mr. Ez, I said again, anything's got to do with JM Aviation. Jules has been there for 25 years. He's been working with SAT for the 25 years. He's the man who knows exactly what was happening.
Well, Mr. Nzego, you don't mean, do you?
I don't.
You don't mean that you don't know what job your wife does at Swissport? What position?
Not at Swissport, at JM.
At JM, I'm sorry.
Yes.
At JM. You don't mean that you don't know what position she holds, do you?
I mean it, Chair.
You don't know?
I don't know.
What job she does?
I don't know.
Well, last month marked 2 years since the much-anticipated State Capture Commission of Inquiry started hearing testimonies. And nearly 1 billion rand later, there is no prosecution. The cost of justice is clearly expensive, while the wheels of justice grind slow. Good evening, I'm Aldrin St-Pierre, and this is Unfiltered. Can those implicated at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry be prosecuted? Tonight, we are joined by Lawson Naidoo, who is the Executive Director at the Council for the Advancement of South Africa's Constitution, or CASAC. We also welcome Anton van Dalsen, who is the legal counsellor at the Helen Suzman Foundation. We've made unsuccessful attempts to invite the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo to be part of this conversation, but you can do this by going onto the social media pages using the hashtag SABC Unfiltered. That is hashtag SABC Unfiltered. Tonight we ask you, can those who lied at the Zondo Commission at least be prosecuted? Let's start off with you, Lawson. What do you think?
Good evening, Aldrin. Thank you very much. I think just one thing to correct. Whilst the Commission of Inquiry started hearing evidence 2 years ago last month, the Commission has actually been in existence since the 1st of March 2018.
Yeah.
The existence of the Commission having been gazetted by former President Zuma in January of 2018. So it's 2.5 years down the line. And with just a few more months left for the Commission to complete its work in early next year, they're certainly running against the clock in terms of finalizing the testimony that they have to hear and to be able to produce a report that I think will be meaningful and take the country forward. So, these are issues about people who've lied before the Commission, the findings that the Commission will ultimately make about the veracity of the testimony that has been presented to the Deputy Chief Justice.
But should we be waiting for the report? Can't we start hearing about prosecutions, or at least the NPA on its end starting the process around prosecutions?
Indeed, there's been nothing holding back the NPA from moving ahead with prosecutions at all. They have argued that up until recently, their inability to gain access to the records and investigations that have been conducted by the State Capture Commission have hindered their capacity to move forward. That blockage has now been opened. The NPA and other law enforcement agencies, such as the Hawks and perhaps the SRU, can now also access the records of the investigations that the Commission has conducted, and to use that information as the basis for arrests and prosecutions. At the end of the day, the NPA will have to prepare its own cases. They will have to corroborate and double-check the testimony that has been given before the Zondo Commission. They can't simply rely on what has been said there. They've got to produce a case that is winnable in court. And they therefore, will have a lot of work to do. But there's certainly nothing stopping them from proceeding with arrests and prosecutions.
Anton, good evening. Your summation of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry so far.
Well, I think in analysing what they've been up to, one needs to keep in mind that they effectively kicked off from scratch. And I say that because the state's criminal justice organizations, specifically the NPA and the Hawks, they had been hollowed out or neutralized, call it what you like, during the last few years of President Zuma's term of office. And so there was at that stage when the commission started its activities, there was no really functioning criminal justice system. As an example, one can take the fact that the NPA, the last number of years before President Zuma left office, the only attempted high-profile fraud or corruption case was that against the then sitting Minister of Finance, Pravin Gordhan. And even then, they withdrew the case a week or so afterward or later because they realized that there was not enough evidence for that. So that just shows you what lack of activity there was. And I think when you look at these institutions at the moment, both the Hawks and the NPA, there's some good people there, but there are a lot of good people left during the Zuma years, and a lot of people who were, should we say, following instructions during the Zuma years. A number of them are still there, and of course they are now whiter than the driven snow. So one must look at the slowness of or the lack of speed that is evident in the Zondo Commission against this background. So I think one should have some sympathy with Judge John Zondo and his commission. It was never going to be a quick and easy. But having said that, as Lawson said a few moments ago, there's nothing that prevents the criminal justice institutions from taking people to court if they feel they have the right evidence. They don't have to wait for the findings of the commission. There's nothing prevents them taking action in the meantime.
So considering, Anton, what you've just said now about the criminal justice system and how the Hawks as well as the NPA have been hollowed out of these skills, does this mean that the fault line really lies with the criminal justice system and not so much with the Commission of Inquiry? Because it's continuing to do its work.
Yes, indeed. And I think one should see all of this as part of a picture. You can't just pick out bits and pieces and analyze them. It's all part of a picture. And even though the people leading these institutions have been changed under President Ramaphosa, the fact is that they purely changing the head doesn't always mean that you can start doing things. Because these institutions are suffering from what happened to them during the Zuma years. And
Lawson, looking at the Shamila Batoy's address to Parliament as well, she spoke about not having the capacity to investigate complex corruption.
Yes, I mean, this has been a complaint from the NPA. It's been a complaint from the investigating directorate within the NPA that they lack the technical capacity, in particular, to pursue these complex commercial crimes and state capture projects, which involved multiple corporate entities spread across countries across the globe, and following the trail of the money through various jurisdictions and so on. These are complex matters, and that capacity is not easily available. I think what capacity that does exist has been scooped up at the Zondo Commission, and they have a very competent team of investigators there, and that's why the relaxation of the regulations regarding the commission not only means that the law enforcement agencies can make use of the evidence or the information that the Zondo Commission has garnered, but they can also hire some of those staff at the end of their contracts with the Commission of Inquiry and incorporate them into the law enforcement agency. So I think that will be a significant step once that's able to happen as well.
And looking at the capabilities of the Zondo Commission and the ability to investigate these complex corruption and commercial crimes, as you've just indicated, Lawson, comes the question around the funding of, for instance, the NPA as well, because we speak about a 1 billion rand that has been spent so far on the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. What more does the NPA need in terms of funding to deal with this criminality and also to have successful convictions? That conversation just after this.
We don't get to spend much time together these days. I miss our early morning coffee, jamming to our favorite songs, and rushing from work to get to gym.
MyWay's new MyWheels at-home cover could save you up to 20% because if you work from home, you should pay less.
Mahlatsi Mashao's business idea was sparked by a longing and a desire for a bouquet of flowers above every other gift she was receiving while recovering in hospital.
I was just on a hospital bed and I did not receive flowers as I did receive everything but just not flowers. So that's how my idea of actually starting the flower business came about.
Armed with only passion and a deep love for flowers, Mashao has had to work hard to prove herself in an industry where there were already well-known and dominant players. 3 years into it, she, like many other business owners, has come face to face with an invisible enemy, the COVID-19 pandemic.
Today I can have yellow roses, if I can give an example, and I might not have them tomorrow, or the market in general doesn't have them tomorrow. So we're currently importing, which now prices have to go up always, and that's one thing that you always have to inform our clients that this is what's currently happening and why it's like that.
Lockdown restrictions have impacted on many businesses negatively and also on the movement of people, but this could not have come at a better time for Dipalesa Flowers that's seeing a surge in sales.
The positive part is the sales are really doing well. We're doing well with sales because people are not spending much time with their loved ones, or they're far away from each other. They can't celebrate anything together. So the best thing to do now is to send them gifts.
Dipalesa Flowers has grown in leaps and bounds in the few years of its inception and is currently expanding to accommodate a demand for intimate picnics and setups. She's rallying others to never sleep on their ideas.
Start with what you have, because at the time when the idea came, I literally had nothing. I didn't even know what I was doing. So if I had to look back now, if I haven't started with what I had then, because it was literally nothing, so I wouldn't be where I am today, or I should say Dipalesa wouldn't be where it is today. So I started with nothing, and I believe Dipalesa has potential to actually do great going forward.
It's the JM Aviation bank account, and JM Aviation pays it out to BM Kolisi. Okay. The BM Kolisi with whom you have no dealings at all.
Yes.
And then there's another payment out. Do you see that? It's called Agreement 2316. Do you see that?
25, yes.
Yes. And that's an amount of 2.5 million, correct?
100%, yes.
Do you know who that was paid to?
This says it was agreement 2361, yes.
Yes. Who was it paid to?
I don't know.
It was paid to you, Mr. Nzeku.
This 2.5?
Yeah.
What was paid for? It was not paid to JM, it was paid to me.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm happy. It was good if I did get some money. Swissport gave me some money.
Yes, your evidence earlier was that you got nothing.
No, but it's fine. If you're saying they pay me that 2.5, I don't understand. What was that money for?
I don't either. Could you enlighten us?
This is money from your company to you.
After they received the Swissport
No,
28.5.
this company never gave me 2.5 million rand. JM never gave me that money. Maybe this money stayed with JM.
No. It went into your bank account, Mr. Nzeku.
Do we have it here?
Yes, we do. Would you like me to take you to it?
Please, yes.
Do you actually have no recollection, Mr. Nzeku, of receiving 2.5 million rand on the 23rd of March 2016, as you sit here today?
I must tell you that I was thinking that this was the money for the company.
Is 2.5 million small change for you?
No, Chair. It's a lot of money.
So it's a lot of money.
Yes.
So how could you forget if that amount came into your account?
But okay, let's agree now that it did, because when was that? What year was this again, the councillor?
2016, March.
Yeah, that was.
Well, actually listening to the crew in the background, it sounds like a joke. It really sounds like a joke. And everyone is laughing. And all of this happened right in front of the Deputy Chief Justice. Joined by Lawson Naidoo, the Executive Director of the Council of the Advancement of the South African Constitution, or CASAC. We also have Anton van Dalsen, who's from the Helen Suzman Foundation. And, Lawson, let's quickly start there. Let's start from that particular point. That considering all the regulations and the amendments that you spoke about earlier on around witnesses appearing before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, circumventing questions, and the legal consequences that should follow. In this particular case, isn't this a classic example of where those consequences should follow?
Indeed, but the issue with commissions of inquiry is they don't have teeth. They're unable to take action on their own, even though the regulations and the terms of reference may suggest that it is an offence to not answer a question, that they may be in contempt of the proceedings of the commission, but that will have to be taken to court. In a contempt proceeding, the Deputy Chief Justice is not in a position to mete out punishment for people that he believes are not telling the truth. So that's ultimately a question for the law enforcement agencies to now take up. The evidence of Mr. Nzeka was clearly of concern to the Deputy Chief Justice. I think it was of concern to all South Africans who watched his testimony. And it is to be hoped that the Hawks and the NPA will act speedily on this matter. It seems like a fairly simple matter of, Mr. Nzeka not telling the truth before the Commission when the documentary evidence clearly proves otherwise.
And Anton, isn't it when, for instance, in this classic example, with Mr. Nzeka and the NPA or the Hawks or whoever is supposed to be investigating and bringing charges against him, fail to do that people then conclude that the State Capture Commission of Inquiry is nothing but a talk shop. And Lawson just spoke now that Lawson just said now that the State Capture Commission of Inquiry or commissions of inquiry really don't have teeth themselves.
Yes, it is a problem that commissions of inquiry do encounter. And one mustn't forget that the Commission of Inquiry, all they can do at the end is to come out with certain findings and recommendations. They are not able to convict people, find them guilty or whatever, and to sentence them accordingly. So once the report of the Commission is available, only then will certain action be expected. Although, as I said before, there's nothing that prevents the NPA from prosecuting people before those recommendations become public. But I think one other thing that one mustn't forget, and that is that however long the Commission is taking, I think it's very important that all this stuff does get aired publicly. And because it does show to the public to what degree there was some serious funny business going on in the background with a number of state entities. And as far as state capture is concerned, I think it's very important that all these things do become public knowledge. And that on its own, I think, is a valuable contribution by the Commission.
Does the Commission have the power at all then to open a case against any of the witnesses?
As far as I know, not. The Commission, when it finalizes its report, will make certain findings and make recommendations. And I would imagine it would say that, person X who is involved in a certain transaction, the recommendation is that the NPA investigate that further with a view to making the necessary prosecutions. So that is what the commission would do. It's not for the commission itself to charge people, no.
Yeah. Okay, we're just going to go to a quick ad break. When we come back, we're going to touch again on this particular question around the powers of the Commission of Inquiry, because I'm now thinking about the subpoena, for instance. If you say that you subpoena a witness, how do you enforce that subpoena if the witness still insists that they will not appear before that Commission of Inquiry? That conversation just after this, including the funding of the NPA.
For over 84 years, the SABC has been at the forefront of broadcast radio and television, bringing joy and happiness to the homes of many while continually redefining South Africa's media landscape. We do not speak with one voice. We let every voice in our nation find expression in language and in culture. We do not just bring the news, we provide content that is independent and impartial. We do not just broadcast sport, but we do it for the love of the game. We do not just entertain, we deliver local content, representing Mzansi for sure. We empower you with educational content that reminds you where you belong. With 19 radio stations and 5 TV channels, SABC 1, 2, 3, Education and SABC News Channel, we ensure that everyone in our nation is informed, educated and entertained. All the while knowing that at 84, there's still much more yet to come. Hashtag 84 years of SABC.
And welcome back. We're still discussing the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, which marked 2 years last month, since the start of hearing the testimonies in August 2018. Lawson, on that particular question, Rod, so if the Commission of Inquiry doesn't have the powers to press a charge against or open a case against a witness, how then is it able to enforce a subpoena?
Well, indeed, Aldrin, the Commission may initiate legal action for someone who disobeys who doesn't respond to a subpoena or doesn't produce documents that are required by the Commission. But that would be a separate process. So I think the point is that the Deputy Chief Justice himself is not able to find such a person guilty and impose a penalty on them. That would have to go through the process of the courts, and the Commission's regulation create certain offences for things done at the Commission, but they would have to be prosecuted in the normal way.
Okay, let's move over to this question around funding. And we've heard as well Shamila Batoy complaining that there is no funding available. And now we're even seeing that the NPA going as far as accepting donations from even foreign nations.
Well, Aldrin, the issue of the funding of the NPA has been a long-standing saga. The funding was cut. As Anton mentioned earlier, they lost a lot of human resource capacity during previous years. And I think Shamila Batoy is on record as saying, when she came into office 2.5 years ago, or a year and a half ago, that there was a 25% vacancy rate at the NPA. That's a significant gap to fill in a short period of time, and resources need to be made available to ensure that the NPA can recruit not just the specialists that we've been talking about in terms of the forensic specialists and the like, but also to fund its it's a very important aspirant prosecutors program because they've got to build capacity for the future as well, and not just think about the present. So, they need a huge influx of staff. There's, many cases that need to be prosecuted, and they need many prosecutors to be able to do that.
And Anton, how do we get there? The funding issue.
As far as the funding is concerned, well, really two comments. One is it's for the state to decide what its priorities are, and that's very clear. And secondly, the acceptance of money from foreign governments is a problematic issue. Mm-hmm. And there one has to be very careful about how the structure is devised to deal with those funds. In a way, if I can use the term, those funds have to be sterilized so that, foreign governments are unable in the end, even though they do provide funding, that they are unable to have any kind of influence on what happens within the NPA, because that would be an untenable position.
And also, when we come back, I just quickly want to touch on that perception of undue influence that some people may think of, considering that you'd have a foreign government donating money to a criminal justice system and an entity such as the NPA. But of course, we've also heard from the Public Protector's Office as well, even during the time of Thuli Madonsela, that there has been a funding issue. That conversation, just after this, we have to say goodbye to our SABC3 viewers, but the conversation continues on the SABC News channel 404. Okay, Anton, let's start off there. The perception of undue influence.
Yes, it's something one has to be very careful of. And if any money does come from foreign governments, my thinking would be that money would have to go somewhere else first, like the Ministry of Justice, and then for those funds, for the Minister of Justice to decide how those funds are used and so on. Mm-hmm. So there needs to be, in a way, a break in the chain. Mm-hmm. But one has to be very careful with these things because you don't want to create a perception that somebody else is calling the tune. Yeah,
and Lawson, when you look at the idea and the concept right now of the fusion center to deal with the COVID-19 corruption, is that the route to go? Do you think that would actually deal with some of the issues that the State Capture Commission of Inquiry can't deal with?
Well, it's not so much being able to deal with issues that the Commission can't deal with, but it's the matter of the law enforcement agencies being working in unison, working with the complementarity of skills and expertise that is required to prosecute some of these complex cases. So bringing together all of those organizations, along the lines of what CASAC has long advocated for, which is a dedicated anti-corruption agencies that brings together all of the skills under one umbrella and is able to deal with all aspects of a corruption or state capture investigation and prosecution in one place. So, I think the establishment of the Fusion Center is certainly a step in the right direction in terms of being able to produce winnable cases in court.
Do you think the establishment of that Fusion Center could also bring us to a point where the country may not need commissions of inquiry like the State Capture Commission, because now you would have that anti-corruption center that is already set up? And last week we had a conversation with the former NDPP, and he said that even if you consider having such an institution constitutionalized in the Constitution where it is independent from the executive.
Well, for as long as we would have an agency that is truly independent of that ilk, then there should be no need for commissions of inquiry to investigate issues of corruption or state capture, and we can then rely on the law enforcement agencies to do their jobs, to investigate matters and prosecute them. But it's a big step from where we are now to actually institutionalizing that kind of capacity that we see the beginnings of in this Fusion Center.
Okay, Anton, your take on that?
No, I agree with Lawson, and I think that it's difficult to generalize. One can't just say commissions of inquiry shouldn't be held, because This one started when the initial regulations were issued under President Zuma, and we were in a very different situation then than we are now. So it's one has to judge each case on its own merits.
What do you mean by that? Different situation?
A different situation in the sense of there was no action under President Zuma taken against anybody who is involved in state capture. And I think the atmosphere at the moment is very different. The evidence before the Commission of Inquiry has shown to what degree or how serious this whole issue is. And so coming back to your thing about whether commissions of inquiry should be held or not held, it's very difficult to just come out with an answer to say that they shouldn't be held at all. This one does serve a purpose and has a very specific background.
And Lawson, thinking about, for instance, since the State Capture Commission of Inquiry started, some may argue that the only time that we've really seen somebody taking accountability was with Nhlanhla Nene.
Well, he's the only one where there have been consequences in the fact that he resigned from his position as a result of evidence that emerged at the State Capture Commission. He took the fall for what he had done and said. But I think I want to come back to Anton's point about the origins of this Commission of Inquiry.
Sure.
This emanated from a public protector report in 2016, which was done by the previous public protector, Advocate Madonsela, and her view was that we needed a Commission of Inquiry, I think, because quite clearly at the time, the existing those agencies, the Hawks, were being led by Burning Ntlhameza at the time, the NPA by Sean Abrams, and there was no confidence that either of those institutions would be able to take forward the preliminary inquiry that she had conducted that suggested that there was prima facie evidence of state capture and widespread corruption. And she therefore suggested that a Commission of Inquiry with wide-ranging powers should be initiated in order to pursue those investigations, which is what has happened now.
And we remember the long legal battles around that, and the ANC now taking credit for the establishment of that Commission of Inquiry. And speaking about the ANC, when we come back, we will be touching on the role of the party when it comes to the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. We know that the president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, is expected to testify or appear before the Zondo Commission right at the end. That was a promise that was made last year. We hope they'll hold up to that promise.
Mahlatsi Mashao's business idea was sparked by a longing and a desire for a bouquet of flowers above every other gift she was receiving while recovering in hospital.
I was just on a hospital bed and I did not receive flowers as I did receive everything but just not flowers. So that's how my idea of actually starting the flower business came about.
Armed with only passion and a deep love for flowers, Mashao has had to work hard to prove herself in an industry where there were already well-known and dominant players. 3 years into it, she, like many other business owners, has come face to face with an invisible enemy, the COVID-19 pandemic.
Today I can have yellow roses, if I can give an example, and I might not have them tomorrow, or the market in general doesn't have them tomorrow. So we're currently importing, which now prices have to go up always, and that's one thing that you always have to inform our clients that this is what's currently happening and why it's like that.
Lockdown restrictions have impacted on many businesses negatively and also on the movement of people, but this could not have come at a better time for Dipalesa Flowers that's seeing a surge in sales.
The positive part is the sales are really doing well. We're doing well with sales because people are not spending much time with their loved ones, or they're far away from each other. They can't celebrate anything together. So the best
You have never had a party called Break a Leg?
I've had a birthday party at Silverster.
A Break a Leg?
No.
Well, he says the theme of your 50th birthday party was break a leg. You say that's not true.
No.
Yes. Well, did your 50th birthday party have a theme? Even if it's not
The
this
call
theme?
was to people to come and celebrate
Yes.
the journey of my life.
Yes.
Yes.
It does sound strange that Mr. Kutsi could remember your 40th birthday party at his guest house 18 years ago, but you can't remember your 40th birthday party.
It can sound strange because, honestly speaking, that was not a party that I knew was going to happen. And I was not looking forward to having a party and a break your leg kind of wow that was actually being said.
Well, that's the former minister, Nomvula Mokonyane, who's also now the chairperson of the ANC's Disciplinary Appeals Committee. Lawson? Your initial remarks to that?
Well, again, I mean, I think, the credibility of Nomvula Mokonyane as a witness will certainly be called into question, and one would expect that the Deputy Chief Justice's report will be rather scathing about the evidence that she has given before him.
Mm-hmm. Do you think somebody will break a leg?
Well,
let's leave that. Let's leave that. Let's leave that. But the ANC itself, as the governing party, and its role in enabling state capture, how do we locate the ANC in state capture, and also some of the testimony that we've heard from ANC members so far?
Well, look, I mean, I think, but by its very nature, state capture means that the levers of the state were abused and can only be done by senior officials within the government. If you look at the terms of reference of the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, they refer repeatedly to the conduct of the former president, Mr. Zuma, conduct of members of the National Executive, being the cabinet and deputy ministers, in facilitating state capture. And these are by and large members of the African National Congress, and they need to be held accountable. We've seen, just last week again, the testimony of Mr. Vincent Smith, a senior ANC MP, and other ministers have come forward and given evidence, and others still need to be questioned. So, the party as a whole has a lot to answer for. I'm not sure that, President Ramaphosa appearing there as president of the ANC is going to be in a position to answer for all of his colleagues within the current and previous national executives of the Republic of South Africa.
But he was deputy president of the ANC and of the country, so he must know something.
Well, he might be. We certainly hope that he's going to come forward with some information.
Yeah.
But I think the point I'm seeking to make, Aldrin, is that ultimately individuals who were key facilitators of state capture, those are the ones that need to be held accountable. Those are the ones who need to be investigated further, and where necessary, be prosecuted and sent to jail.
Yeah. And Anton, we would hope that the president is able to get us there.
Absolutely.
And let's speak then about when the president would eventually, as the commitment was made, appear before the Zondo Commission. What is it as a nation that we should be expecting from the president?
I think it's not an easy one to answer. I think what one would want to see would be somebody in his position and with his background within the ANC to make it quite clear that what has happened, and I think if he's the last person to testify before the commission, it will be quite clear what has happened. And what is needed is for him to say that what has happened here must never happen again.
Yep.
that he will support the criminal law agency, the criminal justice agencies, to find whoever was guilty, and that they must be prosecuted. If he makes that commitment, I think that is what people want.
Yeah, and I'm asking this question on the basis of the history of the ANC and its ability to close ranks. And we will have, again, the former leader of the ANC appearing before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, Jacob Zuma, and he would have his successor also appearing at a later stage. So I want to, would the president have the guts to even say that under the tenure of former President Jacob Zuma, this is what happened, this is what I have noticed while I was in cabinet. Although, of course, making sure that you don't reveal a lot of stuff that takes place in cabinet, but you reveal criminality.
Well, you said you used the word guts, and I think that is what one would hope to see, that he has the guts to take that point of view, that standpoint.
Lawson?
Well, I would absolutely. One would hope that he comes there and tells the Deputy Chief Justice everything that he knows about what happened, whether in cabinet or within the corridors of power at the union buildings. But it's quite a strange set of circumstances that is going to unfold, because we will have President Ramaphosa, as you say, going to give testimony to the Deputy Chief Justice, who will then produce a report that he will then send to President Ramaphosa to act upon.
Ooh. But isn't that the difficulty that we always face when it comes to issues of crime and issues of corruption? Because even if you think about the appointment of judges and the appointment of the Chief Justice, for instance, all of that is an appointment of the president, although, of course, there would be the recommendations that come from the JSC.
Indeed, but one doesn't often, envisage a situation where the president is called to give evidence either in a court of law or before a commission of inquiry that is going to report to that very same president. That, I think, is what is unusual about this state of affairs that is likely to unfold over the next few months, if indeed President Ramaphosa does appear before the Deputy Chief Justice.
Okay, we go to a quick ad break. When we come back, we ask what should happen now as we head to March 2021. That's the deadline that has been set for the State Capture Commission of Inquiry.
Media Monitor on the SABC News Channel. This is where we take a look inside the world of media, analysing the trends, the issues and the reporting of some of the week's top stories.
It's the responsibility of journalists to hold those in power accountable.
Journalists who stick to their mandate and basically hold the line against all of these threats to democracy are the reason why people still trust the media.
Don't forget you can engage with us on social media using hashtag SABC Media Monitor. We'd love to hear from you.
Watch Media Monitor Sundays at 9 a.m.
Well, we conclude our conversation looking into the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. We're in conversation with Lawson Naidoo, the Executive Director of the Council for the Advancement of South African Constitution, or CASAC. We're also joined by Anton van Dalsen, Legal Counsellor at the Helen Suzman Foundation. So, Anton, let's start off with you. As we head up to March 2021, the deadline of the Commission of Inquiry, what is it that we should see now over this period, not only with the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, but also with the governing party, which has said that it's taking steps to deal with people who are implicated in criminal matters?
Yeah, I think for me the major thing is that government must make the necessary resources available to the criminal justice system to prosecute people who were involved. They must have with the necessary resources, that means the necessary funding, the necessary personnel, and without the government deciding to make this a priority, the process is going to continue to be a very slow one. So what I really would like to see is government making this a number one priority.
And the ANC?
And the ANC, well, the ANC has to decide for itself, and it has to be much more. It has to deal with wrongdoing within its own ranks in a much more effective manner and a much more transparent manner. I think that is what is expected of them.
And I asked that question, Anton, on the basis of considering what's happening now with COVID-19 corruption, and some even saying that, we probably might get a COVID-19 commission of inquiry.
I think if the National Prosecuting Authority and the Hawks have the necessary resources at their disposal, we won't need a commission of inquiry.
Okay. And Lawson?
Well, I certainly don't think we're going to need a commission of inquiry for the COVID-19 corruption that we've seen. I think a lot of the evidence is already out there. The Auditor General's report that came out 10 days ago or so is quite clear and methodical in laying out where the problems lie in the various government departments and municipalities. And it's really now a question for the law enforcement agencies to pick up on that information that is already there in the public domain, which is what a commission of inquiry would do. So that information is there, and we need the law enforcement agencies, to work hard and to ensure that these cases come before court as soon as possible. These are not complex cases like the kinds we're talking about that involved, cross-border money transfers and the like. This is, your everyday looting, as it were. And so putting together cases to prosecute these should be relatively straightforward for the Hawks and the NPA.
Okay, and just quickly what the ANC should be doing now over this period, heading up to that finalization of the report.
Well, I think the ANC needs to show a commitment to clean governance. It is the governing party. It's been the governing party for 26 years. We've had this rot set in. People talk of the 9 wasted years. And the ANC, I think, needs to say to the people of South Africa that they're now committed to clean governance, and they're going to take strong, direct action against those who have transgressed the line, who have, not carried out their public duties, whether as elected representatives or as public servants, in accord with the letter and spirit of the law. And that action needs to be taken against them, both within the party and by the law enforcement agencies. And when the law enforcement agencies act, to not put political pressure to try and protect any individuals.
Lawson and Anton, thank you so much for your time. We've come to the end of this evening's program. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for all your contributions. From me, Aldrin Simpier, and the rest of the team, it is goodbye.